All right, I'm really excited on this video because I had a session with one of my coaching clients who's this freelancer entrepreneur, and he owns his business, and there was this tension that he was dealing with regarding purpose, regarding family, and regarding work, and finding identity in his work. And basically, as a designer, as a business owner, it can be so easy for us, whatever we do for a living, are we finding our identity in what we do for a living? And the first thing that I wanted to unpack with him was where he found his worth and his purpose. So I wanted to break this down for you as to the tools and the strategies I've used over the last 38 years, but what I did to get to that freedom, my success criteria, and the filters for the decisions that I used to build multiple businesses, multiple initiatives, whether it be art, online courses, digital agency. That's a lot, right? But how do you build a full-blown brand without losing yourself in the midst of it, let alone your marriage and your kids? That, I believe, is the biggest tension. And that's what I want to help you with in this episode, of really helping you break down some practical strategies on what you can apply and shift your paradigm. And so, my podcast is Creating a Life by Design. This is it, architecture. If you're not building into this vision and this architecture, your business lacks vision, your life lacks vision, and you're not going to be able to end well. So how do you end well without losing yourself, building a great brand, having an amazing marriage, having amazing kids, great relationships, and if you're a believer like me, how do you do all that while honoring God and building His kingdom in the process? Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. But let me share with you a few things that I did with him. So a couple things. We got to look at how we're going to end. And this is a tombstone, and here's the grass, and we're all going to end up in this same exact spot. Now, end is going to be different for each and every one of us. Why? What did I want? I wanted to end where I'm standing before the judgment seat of Christ. I want to look at the end of my life and look back and be really proud of all the decisions that I made here and here. Okay, so let's say, Lord willing, 95 years old. Let's say I'm born here. Let's say 50 years old is right here. One of the things that I had to help my friend with and my client was, he's at 39, okay? 39. He's basically in midlife, okay? And the decisions that he makes here is going to determine what the next, Lord willing, 45 to 50 years of his life looks like. However, he's only going to be physically able to do that for like the next 25 to 30 years. So physically fit to be able to maintain this. Now watch this. I had to help him do a couple things. One, where he finds his worth, where he finds his purpose, where he finds his priorities. Okay? Now, worth for most guys is based on money, and money determines your self-worth, myself included. I had to break this off. So I had to die. I'm going to do a skull. I had to die to self-worth. Okay, so my worth is no longer found in what I do. It's actually in who I am. Who God's called me to be and who I am. So that's actually my worth. My purpose went from being my purpose, my plan, and my purpose to His plan and His purpose through me. So if I'm just being me and who I am and who God's called me to be, I'm going to live a God-honoring life. I'm going to do what I'm designed to do, and here's my next success criteria for that. And this will then determine my priorities. Watch. So my goal with everybody that I work with is based on this criteria that I've used in my own life. Here's what I did. I wanted to work the least amount, make the most money that I've ever made, doing what God's called me to do in the sweet spot of my unique genius while building the kingdom. I wanted to go from being a producer and a consumer in this life, this season, and become an investor as soon as possible. Take what I would normally do in life and move it all the way up here on the timeline to say, I am investing in God's kingdom using my business as a mission. I no longer find my identity in my business. And so I'm going to use it to move into the rest of my life where I'm going to be an investor for the rest of my life. So here's my success criteria. Work the least amount. I don't judge like a painting took me 140 hours and I get X amount an hour. No, it's the finished. What is the value that I create? Work least amount, making the most revenue, doing where my heart comes alive, and building God's kingdom return on investment. Okay? So you're dealing with these factors of your success criteria. So this to me is true success, true significance. And success as significance is knowing when I'm hitting this sweet spot of flow. Now I'm living in my calling, right? But the important part is then what becomes my priorities. And here was his rub. Dude, I'm finding all of my worth in my business. And I go, dude, it's out of whack. We got to get your priorities straight. And here's what it looks like. So here is the husband. Here's his wife. And they're hanging out and they have these little ones. Okay, let's just say it's a family of 4. Well, back when I started my business over 38 years ago, I thought I'm going to be the king, right? And the queen is going to love me if I can bring home the dough. The problem in this season, right, framing expectations and priorities, says in this season of my life, I feel like a ghost, that I'm an underwriter. I may just bring home the money. She's going to be so preoccupied with the kids, she's underwriting the bed and breakfast. And so when we looked at this business, I had to recalibrate what is my priorities. And this is where it came from, Matthew 6:33. Seeking first his kingdom and his righteousness, and he's going to add everything else unto me. Here was the disruption, the burning bush for me in my life. Hold on a second. Uh-oh. I took the bait of this world, and I took the bait of success, and my priority was in my business. And I found my self-worth and my net worth all consuming in terms of my purpose being in the business and what I did for a living. Meanwhile, I forsaked the heart of my wife and my kids, but I quickly readjusted on Matthew 6:33, that disruption, making them my number 1 client, my number 2 client, but before the number 1 client was me. And the way that I prove that is through life mastery that I learned in the mentorship that I now teach, the master's program. And that is the infrastructure of mind, body, soul, and spirit. When you move into this territory in your life, this is going to be the most productive part of your life because you're going to have the most wisdom that you've ever had. You're going to know the most people that you've ever known, and you're going to have the most influence you've ever possessed. And what that means is as you climb this life of going from summit to summit, like Mount Everest, base camp 1, base camp 2, base camp 3, this is your life mission. Well, in order to sustain upgrades and getting invitations from the Lord, and as I get older, I get better, the only way that that's going to happen is if I'm doing mind, body, soul, spirit infrastructure. Why? Because that is, my friend, the exact launching pad. This is a rocket. Everybody wants to pick this bad boy out, but they're not taking care of their marriage, themselves, their kids, their relationships. This is the business. This is what I taught him is his number 1 priority. Number 1, him with God, him with himself, him with her, him with them. This is the business because she's running a bed and breakfast, but you guys are partners in it, co-joined as partners. The kids get to witness that partnership. It's not your job to go out and earn the bacon and bring it home. No, that's a partnership. If the husband's the bed provider or the provider, or the wife is the provider, totally get that. Bottom line, this is a team effort. The more Chantel and I did this and got our minds right and kept our game tight, keeping mind, body, soul, and spirit, this means that my mind, I'm learning all the time. I've got mentors. I'm meeting with mentors. I'm in development from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day on myself. Body, working out 25 years straight. Spirit, time with the Lord, getting the truth of God's word in me. And soul, relationships. So here's what I said. Guys, this is the brutal reality. I was very close to having it where I was having the love affair, sirens call, adulterous affair with the business, forsaking the family by saying this, dude. My wife would be at home, and let's say she's underwriting the bed and breakfast on sweat equity. I'm out there trying to build it in the business, but she's allowing it so you can go out and finance your expensive hobby of being an entrepreneur. Woo, that was a disruption for me. So what would it look like if I just recalibrated that? Imagine the end of my life, looking back. How do I make sure that I didn't lose my marriage? I didn't lose myself. I found the purpose of who God's called me to be, to love God, love people, make disciples in this season. And this is the other breakthrough for him. Get you to work the least amount, making the most money you've ever made, doing what God's called you to do while building God's kingdom. Priorities, yes? But I just said this, let's get the buckets financially first taken care of here. One, first, what needs to be set aside to operate the house and the underwriting of the bed and breakfast? Two, what needs to be on the side? You know what? I'll tell you what, dudes. Get these 2 buckets filled first for your spouse and ask her what's that amount that she needs to be able to execute in whether that's schools and recitals and gear for sports and all that. Get this need met first, then go to the business and then try to amplify the business. But you're thinking it's the business that's going to give us that money. I highly disagree. I did this. It worked over and over and over again. Why? Because Matthew 6:33, I took him up on the offer. And here's what it was. Seek first his kingdom and righteousness. What is that on earth? My wife, as the #1 client, and my kids, and myself. Business is something that you do. It is not who you are. That's not who I am. It's something that I do. And there's a big, massive, so here's your takeaways for today. Are you being, or are you just doing? You're really busy doing things, but you're not being a child of God. You're not being a loving husband, a loving father. Where are you finding your worth? Ask yourself that question. Is it your self-worth? Or is it in who you are? Regardless of what you do. Shame says you are who you are regardless of what you do. My book, The Fear Hunters, that just came out. Brand new course, by the way, if you go to j-elias.net or Noah Fine Art. Really helping you with this whole idea of shame and guilt. Shame says you are who you are based on what you do. Your identity in Christ says you are who you are regardless of whatever you do. God's not going to love me any more if I do more. He's not going to love me any less. But I do get the option to partner with him. So my question is this. As you look at this season, I had to ask him at this age of 39 to 50, this season frames your expectations. Right now, you are not empty nesters. What is needed for you to cover this burn rate to get through this season of being this business of the bed and breakfast to help these folks launch extremely well, and you can give this entire structure, boom, as a legacy to your kids. Man, I wish my dad would have told me this. I wish he would have told me that the more I climb higher, the less people I'm going to have around, the more misunderstood I'm going to be, and the air is going to get thinner up there, but I'm going to know more, have more wisdom and people and influence. How do I form up this? You know what Kobe and Tiger and all those guys continually worked on in terms of the performance of their craft? Is how do you prove this in the basics every single day to make sure that the launching pad is secure to support this big of a climb for the rest of your life? So I will close in this on this video. If you want an extraordinary life, you got to stop hanging around with ordinary people. And let me just tell you this. If you want an extraordinary life mission to carry out for the rest of your life, it's proved here. You better have extraordinary disciplines, and it starts with you as the #1 priority. Okay? What does this look like? Chantel and I doing date nights every single week. What does this look like? Dates with myself every day of 5 through 10 a.m. working the basics, hitting balls, shooting shots. I'm literally getting time in the Word, journal time, measuring wins, forecasting what's to come. I spend more time planning now at 53 years old than I ever have in my entire life because the stakes have never been higher in terms of the influence and the impact that we can make. Is your plan his plan? Is your purpose his purpose? Is your worth found in self-worth or in who you are in him? Are you working with us, making the most you've ever made, doing what God's called you to do, getting as much kingdom return on investment? Are you being or doing? Is your worth found in who you are? How does that frame your expectations? And ultimately, how does this frame your priorities? My friend, if you want to end well, here's looking back on your life. I think this will really radically change your expectations and give yourself some grace today to be able to say, I'm in a season of raising a family. And I need to frame my expectations that I am here to partner with my wife. God owns my business. He's going to, watch this, as he did with us, he's going to invite us into the upgrades and opportunities based on how I produce faithfulness on the daily basis. Why would I expect to go out and have an extraordinary life of turning the world upside down for God's kingdom if I can't turn this world upside down first? So that's my hope and prayer for you guys today. I've got some great resources, and I'm really pumped because the team and I have been working about the last year on j-elias.net and noahfineart.com. Two places. If you want to learn strategies for how to build your art business and your craft and creativity, the Profitable Artist is there on Noah Fine Art, as well as the core subscription. But then on j-elias.net, I have Kingdom Entrepreneurship. I've got coaching for those that want to be able to take the infrastructure of everything that we're talking about here and learn. So if you're looking for entrepreneurial skills and life skills in terms of stewardship, boy, that's going to be a great resource for you to check out. So j-elias.net, noahfineart.com. Man, leave a comment down below. What struck a chord with you, and what do you want to do differently moving forward? I'd love for you to join in the conversation. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon.